right, welcome everyone to our Scraper Masterclass, the second edition where we will be diving into advanced scraping practices. Today we have Manvel with us here, and we will be walking through some really cool cases and real examples on how you can scrape data with Bardeen in even advanced cases. We already have a first session where we dived into what is Bardeen Scraper, how to use it, and common fixes of regular problems that you might have with Bardeen Scraper. And now in this session, we want to dive into deeper topics. And we have with us Manvel that is joining us from Cyprus. Isn't that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Joining from Larnaca, Cyprus.
Welcome, Manvel. So Manvel, he's the leading engineer of this scraping tool in Bardeen. He has created this product almost from, he has seen it evolve in many ways. So we're really excited to have you here teaching us. So welcome everyone. I am Escobar. I'm the head of community of Bardeen. It seems like we're connecting from everywhere in the world. We have people from Bosnia, from UK, from Texas, Boston, South Africa. Right now, I am in Saloniki, Greece. We were just finishing our with Bardeen, and we're really happy to have you here. Seems like we have people from everywhere in the world. So let's dive into mastering the scraper use cases with Bardeen. In this session, we're going to be diving into advanced list scraping techniques and deep techniques. Let's first dive into what we learned on that first class. And this first class, you will find the recording on our YouTube.
During the previous session, we had a walkthrough through the basics of creating the scraper model. We have also showed some basic CSS and HTML snippets and some techniques how to overcome some challenges. We also have created few examples, few scraper models for scraping data. It's really recommended for you to have a look into that if you haven't yet. So it will provide some basis for the current session.
This is what we learned on the first class. And we also shared some handy resources on the first class. We dived into CSS selector examples, courses, and different tools that you can use to advance in that learn curve of understanding Bardeen Scraper and what are those basic knowledges of HTML and CSS that you might need to overcome your challenges when scraping. What we will teach you today, we will dive into a couple of fun use cases where we will be scraping LinkedIn jobs, we'll be scraping Amazon, we will be checking even a use case of how to scrape Google News, and we will try to help you understand what is list scraping and how we can fix those cases of list scraping and fixing your containers with CSS selectors. We will also dive into deep scraping. I guess that if you're already a Bardeen user, you might have already learned about this concept before. So we will dive into the deep scraping use case, how you can use it, and what are some common limitations that you might run into. We will show you some tricks and tips, and we will have a Q&A session. So you can feel free to start asking questions anytime during this event, because we will have 2 moments where we will stop and address the audience's questions. At the end, we will also be sharing a scraper contest that is ongoing right now and will allow you to get some Bardeen credits for your automations as well. Now, our objective in this session is to help you understand how you can scrape complex lists on the web and how you can scrape large lists of links on the web with deep scraping. So this is our main intention for today. Let's dive into those use cases and like some examples that we will see today. First, we will see how you can scrape your Google News and get that fixed for the cases where you have tricky containers, where you have tricky lists that don't always scrape as you would expect them to, right? So in this case, we will be trying to scrape Google News articles from the For You section. So this will be handy if you're trying to, for instance, get your Google News articles saved so you can have them in Slack every day or in a spreadsheet or even on WhatsApp. We will go through Amazon products use case, how to scrape those products from a search, but how to do it in a way that you can also keep through those ads, right? Because you don't always want all the information. You want to focus on the products that are the real results, not the ads, right? Now, we will also be diving into LinkedIn jobs. That is a very common use case that we get from our users on how to get a list of LinkedIn jobs scraped in a way that the scraper works correctly, because once you try it on your own, you might run into some issues. So here we will explain to you what are those issues and how you can solve them. And finally, we will also go into Instagram safe posts, hopefully if we get time for that example as well. The first topic we want to discuss today is list scraping. And list scraping is the ability to extract lists of data from a website. Let's say if you're on LinkedIn search, you want to get all the companies on that search, or if you're on Amazon and you want to get products, or Airbnb. There are so many lists on the web, and it's very common that you want to get information from those lists, and manually you will need to copy paste all this information. That's what list scraping is for you to select with Bardeen really quickly that list and extract that information into your apps, into spreadsheets, or connect it into your systems. We have here Manvel, that is the scraping engineer, and you created this product from scratch. I want to hear from you, like, what are some of the advantages and common problems that you might run into list scraping?
Yeah, I think you pretty well explained all the advantages that deep scraping and list scraping provide like a full capability of extracting first list of the data, and also providing capabilities of extracting the data within deeply nested pages of the website. So yeah, you can also, one of the advantages would be that you can also run the scraper in the background for the multiple lists, so you don't need to be always interact with the browser while you're doing that scraping job. Also, there are some common problems that comes with list scraping. I think we have covered common problems for the single page scraping in the previous lesson, previous session, but there are also cases that list scraping might be challenging. For example, there are multiple wrappers within list items. We will soon see it in the example, specifically Google News. So yeah, you'll probably have a better understanding what that issue is about. And yeah, the dynamic loaded content is also another issue when you're getting a list of the data, but the page dynamically populated, for example, during the scroll. We also have a use case that we can demonstrate that, and trouble finding the next button for pagination. There are also some limitations currently in the list scraper. We are working on to add those as well. That one will be the reverse scrolling. When you're, for example, can get a list of messages in the Slack in the reverse order. We currently do not support XPath as a container selector, so we do support XPath as a nested field selectors. We will go into details through all of that concept soon. And yeah, there are a few new concepts regarding the list scrapings that we will be learning today. One is container, which is a wrapper between for the items that you would like to get data within. So in the previous session, we were getting from the actual page, but now we will be getting from each of those wrappers, which will be like the list item. For example, it can be a search result in a Google, in LinkedIn, and etc. Pagination, I think the concept of pagination is pretty clear. Basically, we can get multiple data from the page that has a pagination. For example, you're making a search for a company in LinkedIn, and there are multiple pages you would like to get from the data from each of that specific page while paginating and scraping. We also support scrolling. We make it as part of the pagination, so not necessarily if there's a page that loads on the scroll, for example, in Twitter. This is also what can be done with list scraping. Scope is a bit technical context, technical concept, so we will probably dive into the scope later into the example, but this mostly about the context of the scraping, whether it's part of the whole page, like in the previous session, or part of the that list wrapper. Yeah, it will all make sense soon.
Yeah.
So no worries.
So just to contextualize you, if you are already a Bardeen user and you have scraped lists before, you might have run into certain cases where you try to get the list and it doesn't really get all the items, or maybe it takes some time to load before you get all the information. or maybe there's no next button. So those are some common problems that you might run into when scraping, and they all depend on how each page is structured. So there isn't much that there is a certain point that where Bardeen cannot do much after that. And here's where we can get into some advanced practices and modifications we can do with CSS selectors and with certain coding techniques to refine those scrapers and improve them. Now, we will dive into some examples, and let's see the first one. So we want to make this kind of as approachable as possible. So the example that we mapped here today actually comes from a real user that reached out to us and asked us, hey, I have this workflow. I have Google News and I see the articles every day, and what I want to do is scrape the data from Google News and like curated data that Google gets for your profile. So he wants to scrape that information and push it into a Google Sheets and then automate the results in GPT with OpenAI. So for this to happen, you would need to create a scraper in Google News, right? Now let's see the example of what happens when you try to create the scraper and you go into this website. You might run into this type of behavior when you select the list that you expect, and then you don't really get the items that you want. I want to get all the articles, but it doesn't really work as expected. So there's some problems here. I cannot select the items properly. I cannot get the article names. I cannot select the names of the articles. So we're a bit blocked in this case, and we want to get, in this case, Manvel's help on how we can solve this type of case. If you want to give it a try and see these issues yourself and solve them live with us, you can click on this link that we are sharing the presentation of Gamma in our comments, so you can also follow along. So Manvel, how would you approach a case like this?
Oh yeah. First, I would like to show the problem with the Bardeen to also provide a little bit of context about how Bardeen detect list items. And then we would need to jump into a small playground to break the issue down into the smaller pieces to make it more clear. So I'll be sharing my screen now. So let's try creating a scraper model on the Google News. And let's say you would like to get data from all of the articles here. But when I pick the first article, and by the way, this is the steps of how Bardeen list scraper works. You need to pick one item in, pick one list item, then the other one. It can be any field inside of the specific list. And you expect it to create a wrapper over every list item so you can scrape. But as you can see, it provides some issues. We can try rerunning it and trying redefining the list on those elements, but we are picking those elements but not picking the others. We can get links from this wrappers, but we're realizing that basically we are only getting 3 results back and no more, but we would like to get more results. And to understand the issue, what causes this, we need to jump into a playground. So here is a simulation of a similar markup. Markup is a building block of the website. So every website is built upon this kind of a markup, and there are a collection of elements, nested elements, which we are using to locate specific data on the page. And in this case, we have 2 elements. Let me increase the font size.
Okay, so what are we seeing here, Manvel? Is this like a specific piece of the code of Google News?
It's a simplified version of the Google News page. We will have a look into actual Google News example, but yeah, this simplifies it to explain the problem. What is happening? In the demo, we picked the item 1 and item 2, and we have created a wrapper that is specifically for the item 1 and item 2, what we call a container selector. So we are starting to select like item 1 and item 2, but we're having trouble to select item 3 and item 4. And the challenge here and the exercise is try to figure out how we can select all the items. CSS has a list of rules that you can locate elements on the page, and that's why we're sharing that resources with you, and you might learn more about it if you watched our previous session. So in this case, what we will need to do, by default, Bardeen generated a selector like this. It selects the first div element and all the div items inside. As you can see, this is what we are selecting. And in order to fix it, we need basically to use the container. As you can see, every item here has this word container, which is part of the class. And in the CSS, to reference to the class, we are using dot. If we're right here, dot, and the class name, we will be now selecting all elements. And this is what how we can fix actual issue in the Google News. On the pages, in order to view the HTML markup of the page, you can right-click on any element and click this item called inspect. And this will provide some hints for you. In this case, we clearly see that every article has a tag called article. Meaning, instead of like picking this item on this item and trying to find a relation between those items, I can basically update the selector with the article. This is a bit advanced use case, but in here, in this action bar, we have this specify custom selector button, using which you basically can replace.
And this allows you to. So just a question. In this case, we're opening the container so we can refine the CSS selector of that container, right? And
exactly.
This is something that we dived into the last session, where we understood that what Bardeen does essentially is that Bardeen generates automatic selectors and that allow the tool to extract the information from the page. So Bardeen automatically creates a container selector, which is the bad version that is not working right now because it was made over a very tricky layout, in this case Google News. And what we're doing right now is we found a solution on how to update that container selector with based on the class that is container, right? This text called container that we can use to specify that all the items that have .container will be selected in this page. Can we see that on action?
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you for all the details regarding the building the generating the selectors. I would like to also emphasize one detail. The way we get the CSS selector generated is by the first pick and second pick, which is trying to find a common parent for those elements and generate this selector. But because of this layout is scattered in various places, it's really tricky. But as we have just noticed, that we can use this article tag to locate all the articles on the page. And that's what we're gonna do. Replacing the container selector with the article, now we'll select all the articles on the Google News page. Here we go. It's a small trick, but yeah, can definitely improve the selection. Here, we also notice there is another issue, that we are not being able to pick the titles of the pages. And this is due to a tricky layout that Google News introduces. Bardeen doing a pretty good job in many places, but here it fails. And in order to select the headlines of every news, we can try, like we need to pick like any element here, and we need to edit it. Let's call it title. Right now it's selecting the links. But what we can do, we can edit that. Instead of link, we will use text. And here, this is a part of where, I think we mentioned scope briefly. So the scope says that we will be making a search inside of articles that we have defined here. So this scope will make a lookup in every list item, in opposite of making that lookup through whole page. So what you might
so
want.
just to check if I understand, we first refine the container to tell Bardeen like,
Right.
hey, here's the entire list that we want to get. Now the scope allows us to focus on the items that are inside each one of the rows of that list, right?
All right. Exactly. And with the scope, we can now look for the heading. We know that, in the HTML, the headings is marked as H1, H2, H3, H4. I do believe in this page is like H4 is like the priority of the headings. And if we try to look up for all the headings inside of these containers, we can use this kind of a trick, provide it comma separated. But as we know that it's H4, because let me show you, you can have a look in here again, going into inspect, and we can see that all the titles on the page using H4 tag. I hope the size of the font is big enough. So yeah, this is how we can pick element even though we couldn't make it work with a smart selection.
Awesome. So seems like we got to refine the list, then specify that from each one of these items, we want the link and the title. So seems like this, when we run it, it should be able to get all the results. Let's go into another case. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I know this, we're trying to teach non-technical individuals how to get into technical topics. So feel free, if you have any questions, to make them in the chat. Now, how can we see this in action? Yeah.
I have created a playbook with it. Unfortunately, it was probably too fast. So we have many videos explaining how to create a playbook. So playbooks are a combination of actions that we are executing on the page that are returning the results. So it's like small automation. So here what I will be doing with this playbook, I'll be specifying the amount of data that I would like to return. And we'll run this on the Google News page. This was 10 results. You can always modify like various arguments how you would like to get the data. In this case, I've specified number of list items to extract to the ask me for maximum items. And this is the arguments that I see when I run the playbook. I can specify like 100 results, and it should get like 100 results back from the page. Here we go.
Awesome. So yeah, that's incredible, because the first time I tried to scrape Google News, I only got like 3 results. Now we found the small fixes that is refining the container just by understanding basically like what is the basic structure of the page, and what are those elements, if they're articles, if they're titles. And once you get that basic understanding, you can refine the scraper template. All right, we have some comments here that Caroline says that this is super helpful, and she has some CS background. And we also have, well, that's understandable. We also have Cole Jones that says that he should have been here for the first lesson. So we do have the recording for that on our YouTube streams. So feel free to see that, and also feel free to ask questions if we can clarify anything further. We will also make some stops after the next examples. Let's go into another example, which is very interesting. If you were on retail, and let's say that you're either building something on the retail space and you're trying to scrape products from, or maybe you have your own products inside Amazon and you want to scrape their competitors, or maybe you're just building a shopping list and you want to get the products. Now, when you think of, hey, I want to scrape information from Amazon, you don't really want to get this sponsored data, right? You want to get the clean data as you would expect it from the top results from your search. So what we want to do here is basically a user reached out on, hey, how can I skip the ads from the results in Amazon? And we're going to see how we can solve this case with some of the CSS practices. And now let's hear it from you, Manvel. How can we approach this case of scraping Amazon items?
Right. So in the previous example, we have considered the case when we were getting like fewer results than we wanted. And now we're going to talk about the cases when we're getting more than results than we want to. So let's say on the Amazon page, I would like to scrape the list of the products. And in order to start doing that, I need to pick an item inside of first item and then the other one inside the next one. So that's what I'm doing. I'm picking the first element, the next one, and and the container selector is being generated, which we have already mentioned is a wrapper for every list item. And yeah, what we can notice here, it's basically selecting more than we want to. And in this case, is that additional sponsored content. To understand the solution, we can again jump into this simplified example. By the way, we have all this simplified example in the slides, so you can access them and play around with it. So this is what is happening actually. We had multiple elements. So this is UL stands for unordered list in HTML. Li is list, obviously, and classes are specific attributes for the elements for websites to style it, but we will also use them for finding the correct element. And in this case, what has happened, we have generated a selector that is basically selecting all the container items here. But as you can see, some of the container items has a class that is called ad, which stands for advertisement. And within that markup, we are basically selecting all that advertisement here as well. As we know that the class name is ad, we can figure out a way how to skip this. And to do that, we will use something called a not pseudo class. Again, there is a resources to learn more about them, but this pseudo class will suggest that I would like to select the element that has a class container but do not have class advertisement in it. And as you can see now, we're picking only the relevant element. And we can use similar trick in the case of Amazon search. If we now try to look into the markup of the page, we might notice that I'll need to find first the container that contain advertisement in it. And I think this one might be it, right? And we can see exactly. And we'll be looking for the hints about like whether this element contain advertisement. And it's very subtle and very unnoticeable. But here we have this ad holder class, which suggests that this element contain advertisement or part of the advertisement campaign, and this is how Amazon uses to style those elements. But we can also use that piece of information to skip the data that contain ad holder class in it. Similar to the playground that we have just went through, I'll click on the list container advanced option and go to the end of this generated selector, and I will add not dot ad holder, which will suggest that pick all of the data that you were picking, but skip the one that has a class called ad holder. And if I save this,
So
as you can see,
So you're editing upon the pre-built selector that Bardeen got, because initially it was doing a good job, and in this case, Bardeen got all the information that you would expect it, but now you just simply want to remove certain items based on this class, on this attribute from the ads, right? So that's what you use the not add label. I think this is a great example, because you can simply edit upon small changes of the existing Bardeen automated selectors. So you don't really have to create them from scratch every time. Sometimes Bardeen works 95% of the job, and you just need to refine it a little bit. That's why having access to those CSS selector kind of tricks and tips, and the cheat sheet that we just shared, for instance, it's very useful. So you can see, like, okay, here's the not command that I can use to exclude certain items with this attribute. So all right, let's see how it ends.
Yeah.
So we're removing the ads.
Yeah, we're removing the ads, but we see that we're still selecting some data that we don't want to. In this case, is the result. As you can see on the page, Bardeen assumes that this element is also part of the list, and we can also get rid of this. In this element, which we have also found the ad holder hint, we can also find some other hints, and that is this search results. So I can use this piece of information that suggests that this element is a search result and update everything before this not. I will be using these curly braces, which stands for attribute selector, and attribute are the pieces of information in here, like data component type is attribute, data index is attribute. So this way we are selecting the search results that are not ad holder. It's also like human readable and understandable when you're breaking this apart. So this way the scraper will stop selecting the result but get all the relevant list items. We can also add some additional fields that we would like to scrape. Let's say title, ink, price, and etc. I will not get into the detail of getting all the fields, so we don't. So we have enough time to go into other use cases as an example, but I'll try quickly run this automation, just ensures that it works as expected. So here, running on this page, we see that we are getting the result from this page. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome case. So we managed to go from getting the data as Bardeen on default would get it, to refining it to our own customization, that is removing the ads. Now let's do a quick question stop and check in with the audience. How are y'all feeling? We have done so far a dive into the scraping of lists and how to refine those containers and how to use certain tricks and CSS selectors to improve those containers. So we also dived into 2 practical examples. We have a couple questions here that let's start approaching. The first one is, I think, very relatable from Anna, that thank you for all this knowledge, which I believe is awesome, but how would a normal operator be able to proceed? So I can maybe give my version of the response, and then Manvel can also hop in. I am a normal operator myself, so if that's what you mean. I am not an advanced coder in any. I think I just know very basic kind of fundamentals of what is an HTML, what is CSS, and the way approach this is by just playing with Bardeen's scraper and learning those fundamentals that you don't really need to go through the entire computer science background, computer science degree to learn about this, because Bardeen will do 95% of the job. You just need to understand the basic CSS and the basic understanding of the HTML for you to be able to refine your scrapers. And once you do that, it's worth the investment, and it's something that, to be honest, you can spend one weekend learning a quick course like the one we recommended from Cat Academy to learn this basic CSS and HTML, and this will unlock you the possibilities to learn advanced scraping and kind of create any type of scraper for any page. And these are like monetizable skills or skills that you can use inside your own job or projects. So I think it's a bit of a learning curve. I understand and I can relate, and we're here to help you. And another thing is that we have a very active community at community.bardeen.ai, and we constantly help users that have issues like this one, like, hey, I'm running into this problem with this page. How can I approach it? And we can give some advice. So that is another way you can also leverage the community. Now let's go into some other questions.
I would like to also add on top. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I would also like to add on to what Ivan mentions, that we already have a ready scraper model, so you don't need to build all of that from scratch. So and we will add all the scraper models that we are building here into the catalog. So next time when you will be working with Bardeen, we will suggest, when you will click on the scraper button, it says, okay, we have a ready scraper model for you. So you're gonna pick it and you're ready to go.
That is true. I can even give an example based on Anna. For instance, the case we just saw on Amazon. This is something that we already have pre-built Amazon scrapers that you can simply go into Amazon, and when you're going to create a scraper with Bardeen, you will get a suggestion. Let me share screen and see, so you can see a live example on how Bardeen suggests you a scraper that you can use on case. So if you're on Bardeen, or if you already have it there, Manvel, maybe more practical if you share it.
Yeah, sure.
All right, so yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether we have like the Amazon search, but we will build it right after the session. But for example, for the Amazon product we already have, and we are already suggesting a few models. Yeah, in this case, it's like Amazon product, and when you're launching the scraper model, we have this suggestion, so you can pick and click on the use current model if you would like to use right away, or you can extend the current model and add additional fields that you would like to scrape. So yeah, this way you can reuse our existing models that are constantly tested and improved. So you will know that the automation you're building, you don't need to rebuild again and again as soon as the website goes through A/B testing phase or changes some layout.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that is super important to consider. And remember, we have at bardeen.ai/scrapers, we have the list of our available scrapers and the websites that we support. So you can browse around. If you're trying to scrape a website, we might already have that for you to just reuse. Now let's go into another example. Another question, sorry, is Yuri asks, is it possible to scrape Google Calendar into Google Sheets? And then would it be possible to have it updated? That is an interesting question. So
Yeah,
I think here the important thing is you don't always need to scrape, because there's also integrations. Maybe you can show us around, Manvel.
sure. We have a few integrations that work out of the box, so you do not necessarily need to scrape the data, but rather if the integration is available, in many cases you might want to consider using it. So for the calendar, we have actually the integrations that can find specific event, find the next event, and we have like a bunch of commands that you can use that potentially can help you with your use case of moving the events and participants to other databases like Notion, Spreadsheet, or similar.
Yeah, and you can also check our existing Bardeen playbooks and audiobooks. We have templates that already have some of these use cases thought of. For instance, there's already existing automations that we have in our catalog to get the events for a certain timeline or get all of your spreadsheet. You can also try that. We also have a magic box feature where you can prompt what you want. For instance, taking that same question and prompting, get my, the last week's Google Calendar meetings or the next week Google Calendar meetings into a Google Sheet, and then have a draft created instantly by AI, and you can run that automation or edit there. So here's a great example from Manvel, who's just prompting an automation to reality, and we got a draft just like that. Find events within 1 week, and then add those rows to Google Sheets. So this should be able to work out of the box. But let's not demo it right now. Let's go into another question. We have also Nithya. How can you create an automation that scrapes data every time there's new information on the website? Manvel?
Oh, can you please repeat the question? Oh, I can have a look.
How can you create an automation that scrapes data every time there is new information on the website? I'm guessing it sounds really like monitoring data changes, right? Like monitoring changes based on scraped information.
Yes, and for that reason, we have a command that is called when website data changes. So let me, I need to reopen this again. So yeah. We have this when website data changes. So you can use scraper models that will allow you to monitor specific page for changes. Let's say in this case, I will use URL of the specific page in Amazon and use a scraper template, which was Amazon products by Bardeen. So as soon as there is any change on this page, this automation will be triggered, and you can proceed with follow-up actions that you like.
Awesome. So it's possible to monitor changes with the scraper. I think that is very underrated and very powerful feature of Bardeen too. Now we can see another example by Maxime. I will respond this very quickly. I found no way yet to scrape documentation on this specific site. I think it's an API directory because it has multiple issues. So in this case, Maxi, I would recommend you to leverage our community. You can ask for help on community.bardeen.ai. We don't have any scrapers for this specific website. It might be very particular to your case. And if Bardeen scraper doesn't work out of the box, you might be able to find some other fixes for your case. So you can share a topic in our community, and we will be able to address it for your case. And finally, we have Alexander with a question about does Bardeen have issues with reCAPTCHA on Google while you're doing so many product searches for scraping?
Yeah, I think we will get into that part as well with deep scraping. So yeah, we have some limitations. So yeah, if there is captchas appear or bot detection blocks, you might not have expected results. So yeah, Bardeen operates within the page you are also operating as a regular user. So yeah, in case there is a page that contain not the information that you are looking for, it won't be able to get it behind of that wall.
Yes, we will see actually that limitation in a bit too. Let's get into the next example. That is LinkedIn jobs, right? And this is a very common example where someone reaches out to the team and they're trying to scrape LinkedIn jobs. Maybe they're trying to search for a job or they're trying to build a job board. And they run into this issue when they create their own scraper that you can demo that the first like the page needs to load down, so you might not always get all the results. And second, there is no pagination button, there is no like next button, so you might be like stuck or trying to figure out how to paginate to the next page if there is no next page button. So those are some of the problems that you might get, and let's see how we can solve it.
So yeah, this is the actual problem. Let me showcase it to you. By the way, we have a ready model. So next time, please don't go through all of the pains that we'll try resolving today. So you just use the existing job search result.
This is for
do the job for you.
educational. Yeah, this is for educational purposes, but we already have a LinkedIn job scraper.
So yeah, the problem is the following. Again, as in on the other pages, we will be try defining the container. And as we also mentioned that list scraper also contains pagination in it. So you can also define what kind of a pagination you want to use on the specific page. And in this case, we know that there is like a pagination, actual pagination, not the scrolling. But yeah, for that reason, I will use click pagination. But if this page would have a scrolling instead, that's what I will go with. So yeah, the problem here is that there is no next button. And it's super tricky. If you click on the number 2, it will only click on this second page. And each time we will try to scrape data, it will be scraping from the second page. And this is unexpected result. We would like to paginate it. Usually the pages has the next button and it's easy to use the click pagination. Pick the next button and it usually will do the job. But in case of there is no next button, it's a bit tricky. So this is what we're gonna break down into examples. So yeah, as mentioned, you can find all of these examples in the presentation URL. So yeah, and this one is actually simulating this exact issue. We have an element that has multiple buttons, but doesn't have a next button in it. This first selector is selecting the selected element. And the second one is selecting the button that it's selecting the third button, which is this one. And as we can see in this view, we have the button 2 selected, and number 3 is the red one, which is simulating the case we have in the LinkedIn. And in order to be able to still paginate, even though there is no next pagination on the page, what we need to do, we need to reference the selected button and ask Bardeen to click on the element that comes after it, which will be the button 3. Meaning, If we don't do that and selection change from the 2 to 3, we will be again selecting the number 3, which in this case is red, and I expect the red, this is the red and the selector, to be on the 4. And to that to work, I need to use the selected class, we already learned about class, and pick the next item. Class means like pick the next item, and here we are selecting now the 4. And if the selection changes here for the selected button, the expected click will also change. Now we're highlighting the number 2. And this is the trick that we will be using. Find the selected item and pick the item right after it. If we now go back here and inspect this page, we have this list element, and as you can see, it has this hint that is active, and that's what we will be using. And in order to edit the pagination, we will click on this click pagination and select edit click pagination advanced, where we need to update the selector. So I'll remove all the auto-generated selector. We have discussed the auto-generated selection in the previous masterclass, so I'll not go into the details here. And yeah, here I will use I'll try to create a new selector. So we know that there is this list element that has active keyword, so I'll use list.active, which will assumingly select this element, but I would like to select the elements that come right after it, which will be the next list element, li. So we will be selecting this one. We are here, we are selecting this one. Save, and as you can see, we are now selecting the next element. I would need to actually click on the button, not the next element, so I will add a small detail here, space button. This way I'll be selecting the button. Yeah, the page is all writing the style, so yeah, it's maybe a bit inobvious, but we are actually selecting the second item here. And with this selector, we will be able to paginate through whole list of the jobs. So what we can do now, pick few jobs, get a link, and get the title, company, and let's try running this automation. We previously run the automation specifying number of list item to extract, where you can specify the exact number of items, but now we will be running with a number of page to extract. I will be using ask me every time when I run the playbook, and now I'll be specifying the number of pagination. So if I'll specify 2, it will paginate on the 2 pages, 3 on the 3. I do actually know that this page roughly has 25 jobs each, and this is an important information that we will be looking into shortly. So now I'll be running that automation. I would like to say to get the data from 4 pages. And what Bardeen will do, it will get the data and start paginating. Let me close this so we can see. So yeah, Bardeen gets the data, paginates, get the data, paginates. And now we see that we have got back 46 results. But I would expect like 4 pages to contain around 100 results. Maybe a bit less, but at least not 40. Something is wrong. And the problem here is the following. When Bardeen scrolls, there are items that are not yet loaded because we are quickly scrapes the data, and there are job items on this page that are not yet loaded, and they're only loaded when you quickly scroll. And because of the fact that at the time of the scraping, those items are not loaded, we're not being able to pick each of them. And in order to fix that issue, we need to simulate slow scrolling. So it should slowly scroll to the bottom, then click on the next page, then continue with the scraping. And for that reason, we'll do a small
just to add something there. This is very often that pages, not only LinkedIn but also Zillow and many other pages, they take their time to load the rows from that page, so that makes scraping even harder. So this will be kind of a fix on how you can apply it here or in other pages where the items gradually appear as you scroll down.
Exactly. Yeah. Understanding these small details will help boost follow-up scraper build when you notice some false positives, and at that point we unfortunately might not have ready scraper model. But yeah, please, if you need like ready scraper model, share with us your use cases. We will keep adding more and more, so you don't need to do this manually. But if you still are interested in the building process, and here's what we can do. Here I'm updating the existing scraper model, and yeah, I'll come back and show the way how to edit the model shortly. But now what I would like to do, I would like to add this new action to the scraper model, and the action is called delay. And I need just a small delay, like 0.2, 0.1 will do. And this delay, it will do the following. For each list item, we will get link, title, company, weight. Then to the next one, link, title, company, weight, link, title, company, weight. So this way we'll simulate this smooth scrolling in here. Let me close, actually save the model, go to the first page. Not to forget afterwards, in order to edit the existing model, you click on this scraper panel, and in the search, you search for the scraper models that you would like to edit. And yeah, when you find it, click on edit button, and it will move into the edit dialog. And now let's try running it again. Again, on the 4 pages, let's click run, and let's see what is happening. Now, as you can see, it slowly scrolls, gets the data, click on the next button, again, slowly scrolls. It may take longer, but yeah, you still need some time for the items to load. Otherwise, you won't be able to get all the results. Here we go. Now we have got 100 results.
Awesome. It's quite crazy how we managed to create a reliable scraper for something like LinkedIn in just a few fixes, right? In less than 10 minutes too. So thank you for that example. And now let's continue with this example in mind with how you can scrape LinkedIn jobs. But in this case, let's think as like if you're trying to get data from LinkedIn. Right now, you were able to get the information from the list, right? But what happens if you want to go further than that? If you actually want to get data from each page because you want the details, right? You might be building a portal for your own job search, and you want to get the details on each job, like the salary, the about the job, the skills, the connections, all of this. This is what you might want. So that is solved with a concept in Bardeen that is called deep scraping. This is one of those concepts that you might have heard before if you're already a Bardeen user, and we want to deep dive on deep scraping and how we can particular case with deep scraping. So let's first understand the basics before we get into implementing it. So deep scraping is the process of running scraper models using multiple URLs, multiple lists, and you scrape the data in the background. So deep scraping is, in this example, the way you can get first the list of links from each page, and then open each one of those links and scrape that data each page. So it's a way you can create kind of deep or nested scraping automations. So you get into each one of the list items and then scrape data from each individual page. This applies for LinkedIn jobs, but also for pages, but also for companies, and for many other directories and websites out there. It is kind of this concept that will allow you to get data on multiple layers of a website, and it is possible to do with Bardeen with an action called scrape data in the background for URLs. Now let's see this in action, and I want to hear it from Manvel. Like, what are some applications that you might run into this?
Oh yeah. Yeah, as mentioned, like when we were running the automation on the active tab, we can observe what is happening, and it's easier to figure out what went wrong. But when doing on the background, we are losing that leverage, and it's sometimes might be tricky to understand like what went wrong. And as mentioned already, there might be some captchas or warnings on the page that changes a markup and scrapers start failing. So yeah, this is one of the common issues that happens. The other one is also like delays. Sometimes when you're on the slow internet connection, the page may take longer to load, and yeah, it can affect the scraping result. We have some solution for that, but you might want to be mindful when scraping data in the background to know that yes, there can be some additional delay apply, and if you're on very slow internet connection or connection that disconnects, you might have some you won't get like the expected result back.
What do you mean by different markups?
The HTML examples that we were looking into, those are this is what called markup, and the page itself is constructed of that HTML block. And what I meant to say is that HTML will change. A small change on the page can change it, but it usually does not affect list scraping. But if there is a captcha that is completely different page, you won't be able to get data behind.
Okay. All right. Maybe can you help us build this deep scraper for LinkedIn jobs?
Sure, absolutely. So I think we have our automation ready here. Instead of doing pages, I would now do the list of items, because deep scraping can take longer time, and we are already running out of time. Sorry for that. So what we will do now, as we have already created this action that works on the active tab and uses our newly created scraper template, what we will do next, we will add another scraper action, but this one is called scrape data in the background instead of the active tab. And for this action, we need to pass a list of URLs, and we will get that list from the first action, because we have specifically asked the scraper builder to get also the links. So here we now need to create a new scraper model that will go deeply into every job post and get data within. So I can start creating a new scraper model. I know that we have a already LinkedIn job post ready, so I'll use this existing model, so I'll not build it myself. But what this model does, it will get the data from every single job post. As in this case, yeah, it's getting the data from here. So I'm saving this template. And yeah, we can try running. I would like to make it even more useful. Let's also move the data to the spreadsheet. Use the add row to the spreadsheet. We can use ask me every time, so we'll be asked every time to which spreadsheet we would like to add the data. And here I'll use a command and get the data from the second action, which is this scrape data in the background one. Yeah, I think this automation is ready. Let me click on the done button. And yeah, let's try getting the first 5 results and move the data to, yeah, I can create a new spreadsheet.
That is a pro tip right there, that when you're running an automation with Ask Me Every Time, on a spreadsheet, for instance, you can specify that you want to create a new spreadsheet with create Google Sheet with name and the name of the spreadsheet. That might come handy when you're running Bardeen automation.
Exactly. And next time you don't need to specify this create Google Sheet. If you would like to populate the same spreadsheet, you can just look for LinkedIn jobs and yeah, use it instead. Yeah. Very good point, Ivan. And yeah, we will be running first the active tab scraper to get data from the visible page. And then we will be opening each of the page in a new browser window that is minimized on your screen. And what it does, it loads the page, scrapes the data, and closes it. Let me open this background page so you can observe like it in action. Here we go. Wait for the page load.
So
scrape.
You can actually see in the background the page is opening and scraping. So you will not see this because you can simply let the automation run and continue and hide this and continue with your work. So if you're scraping a lot of items, you can just let it run. And after, I don't know, 5 minutes, you'll get your hundreds of items that you might have selected. But if you want to check in on whether the automation is working, you can also check if the items are popping up in the background, if the pages are being opened. All right, so seems like we have some really cool results here. And we got 5 items scraped. So we just created a deep scraper, which was basically getting first the list of items from the job search, and then entering each one of those 5 items and getting the details from each one of those particular jobs. So that is one very basic example of deep scraping. And remember, we do have other videos on scraping in our YouTube channel, so you can also follow along. It is a very common practice in Bardeen. All right, we are running a bit out of time, so I would like to know if you have any other final tips or tips or tricks that Bardeen users can try out when building their scrapers.
Right. As we learned some advanced technique, and it felt also in some cases that a bit tedious, and yeah, and that's why we're trying to build our own model. But I would like to emphasize that you can also use these techniques now to do some cool things. For example, let me go to the Tesla contact page and try getting all mail to links. I'll use this trick here, which will get all the emails from this page. And we will be creating a generic scraper model that will be getting all the mail to links from any page. So for that.
Wow. So this is able to find the mail, like if there's any mailing links on a website, on any website, you can just input this specific container inside Bardeen Scraper, and it'll find all of the
Exactly.
mails. So that is pretty useful. For instance, if you work in sales, if you're trying to, if you have a list of contact pages from websites, or if you're trying to find very quickly from a website, like trying to find contact information, this can come very handy. All right, let's see.
Yeah, exactly. So what
How
I'm
can
doing
we
here,
implement it with the script?
yeah, I just need to trigger Bardeen to calculate a container. So I'll be clicking in two random places on this page. So we will now see the container generated, but I don't want this container, but instead I would like to get the mail to links as a container. So what I will do, I'll go here, edit container selector section, and copy paste the selector from the masterclass spreadsheet. And here is what it suggests. It says that we will be looking for all href attributes that start with a mail to. And this is how mail to links are defined on the page. But yeah, you don't need to know all the technical detail, just copy paste this information in here, and then it will get you all the mail to links as a container. Next thing you want to do is to click any of the mail to links and click on get link. That's it.
Now,
Here,
I have a question that might pop up to other users. Is all right, we managed to do it on Tesla, but this will only apply for Tesla. What if I actually have a list of websites, right? And that is a practical use case. I might work in sales. I might be doing some research. Can I run this scraper over different sites to get the email links of a list of websites, for instance?
Yes, actually you can. And we have this settings section in the in here. So by clicking it, you can define where you would like to run. So in this case, this will be running on the tesla.com. But if you click on everywhere, it will be work on every website. So this will convert a domain-specific scraper model to a generic scraper model that is possible to run on every page. So clicking save template, and yeah, here we go with the automation. We can try executing it here. Here we go. We got all the links from this page. We can now go to, let's say, Bardeen AI contact page, try executing it in there. And here we go. We will get all the links here as well.
That's a great hack, and it actually responds to Anna's question on what happens if I have a list of company URLs on a spreadsheet and I want to get their emails. Well, you can use this scraper over a list of websites, and the way you can do that is, if you have a Google Sheets, you can find the table. You can get the table from Google Sheets, then get those URLs and scrape them in the background with this scraper that Manvel just created. So we already learned a bit about the scrape data in the background, and what Manvel is doing here is setting up the example. Do you want to explain it real?
So yeah, what I did here, I converted the existing model to the background scraper, so you can pass a list of URLs. But what you can also do is, use a spreadsheet, and let's convert this one to another spreadsheet. Let's say contact. Oh, let's say websites, and yeah, we can use Tesla contacts page here. And basically reference get table from Google Sheet. So yeah, we can use this command, and we can use LinkedIn jobs that we have created. I'm not sure which one is the correct one, but yeah, the idea is that you can use that spreadsheet, and instead of the URL, you can source it from the spreadsheet, which, yeah, in this case, you need to find the correct reference to use it. Yeah, I probably should have used the other one, but yeah, the idea is that. So you can use the get table from the Google Sheet command, reference it in the background scraper, and use the mail to scraper model that you have created. This way you can outreach multiple websites.
Yes. So Anna asks, okay, I guess she asks if you can do this specifically from Excel. So to answer this, we don't have a integration right now. We might have it soon in the future. You can connect it to Google Sheets. And there's other tricks that you can do. For instance, if you can copy like the entire list of URLs from the Excel and then paste them into the Bardeen action. So that's another option. You can just copy all the website URLs and paste them into Bardeen with an automation, Manvel, that can you maybe show that example? We can find the links in text.
Oh yeah. So yeah, we have find links in text. Yeah, here we go. So
yeah, and basically if you copy your entire list of URLs and paste it into that text box, you should be able to then run those links over the scraper in the background. So you can connect it right as Manvel is showing, and then run it with this scraper. Okay, yeah. Awesome hack. And let's go into just seems like there is also this hack to get all images with this image and container, but that is a challenge for you to try out in your own scrapers. You can go into a LinkedIn, Amazon, or whatever website, and you can try to use this container and this specific field to get the images. And that is a very quick quiz that we can do here for the audience on how you can actually get this case going. So you should be able to get all the images from any website that you choose with this particular trick, with this particular container and field. All right. So now, just to finish up, and thank you for staying. I know we're a bit over time. So we have an ongoing scraper contest where we're inviting the members of Bardeen to create their own scrapers and get the chance to win Bardeen credits. So this is an opportunity for you to practice these skills, to build a custom scraper yourself, and to share it inside the community or on social media. And just by participating and by basically sharing the story of your scraper and sharing the automation inside our community or on social media and tagging us, you will be able to get 300 credits for participating. So there's still some days that you can participate on this. We will finish the contest in around a week from now, so you still have time to get a scraper built, and we're excited to see what you create. All right, and there's also whoever wins the contest. I forgot to mention this. Whoever wins the contest will also get the chance to become a Bardeen ambassador, and they will get more credits than the other members, so they can run Bardeen Pro for a while. I wanted to thank everyone for participating and to hopping into this class, because really kudos to you. Hopping into technical topics as a non-technical person might always seem challenging, but sometimes it is worth the learning curve. And this is only kind of our first call to action for you to try to learn the basics of CSS and HTML for you to enrich your capabilities on how you can scrape almost any website and then build very powerful automations that can be combined with AI, that can be combined into other tools, and the scraper is one of the core functionalities of Bardeen. So once you get to unlock these skills, I think you get to unlock AI automation and just automation superpowers with these learnings. All right. So thank you very much. I don't know, Manvel, if you have any other final.
Um, no, I think that you covered pretty well. I would like to mention that in case you would like to catch up with the slides, we might want to post slides to the chat if we haven't done yet. But yeah, you can find all the examples there, references to the resources, to the CSS and HTML learning courses if you like. Yeah, thank you so much everyone for joining this session.
Thank you, everyone. And I hope to see you also join our Bardeen community at community@bardeen.ai and see you around. Thank you.